Hello and welcome to another ArtistWorks Instructor Spotlight. My name is Marcus, and today we're going to be joined by the amazing jazz guitarist and ArtistWorks instructor, Dave Stryker. So Dave's topic for this week is Cantaloupe Island for jazz guitar. If you haven't already, check out, we posted mini lessons every day of the week on this very topic right here on our ArtistWorks YouTube channel, covering all the different aspects of how you might work up an arrangement for a tune like this. And so Dave's going to take us a lot deeper now in this masterclass for you. And if you have any questions for Dave, we're going to be getting to your questions in the second half of the show, as always. So just drop them right in the comments and we'll get to as many as we can. And we also love to hear where you're joining us from today. So please say hi, shout out, give any comments you'd like to drop. And if you haven't already, please like and subscribe to this channel. We do these shows every other week. So without further ado, let me bring on Dave. Hey, Dave.
Hello. How's everybody doing out there? Good to see you, Marcus.
Yeah, great to see you.
All right. Welcome to my studio down here in my basement. And as Marcus said, I'm a instructor at ArtistWorks, among other things. But they asked me to be the featured artist this week. And I picked that tune, Cantaloupe Island by Herbie Hancock. And we're going to get into that later. But first, I thought I'd maybe start out and just play a blues by myself and take it from there. All right, let's
Beautiful.
try it.
Take it away.
I'm gonna do "Sunny Moon for Two" by Sonny Rollins in B flat. you have it. Little B-flat blues and just totally improvising. Even left all the mistakes in there, whatever ones there were. But I used a couple different approaches. First off, I'll talk about my guitar a little bit if anybody had a question. And as Marcus mentioned, you can add questions and tell us where you're from, and we'll be getting to those in a little bit after I talk for a little while and play for a little while. But this is a Gibson 347, ES 347. It's was made from 78 to 81, and this is 1980. And it was originally supposed to be a fancy 335. But it didn't catch on so great, I don't think. But I saw it in a music store in Brooklyn way back in the early 80s and dug it. And basically, it's just a 335 with an ebony fingerboard, gold hardware, a split coil, and this is my most asked question. What is that? And all that is a cover I had my guy put on there. Covers up the tailpiece, which was one of those screw-in tuner things, which I never liked. So I took the screws off, wore the gold off, got a rash on my arm when it was too sweaty. So I had to put that on there. The pickups are called Dirty Fingers. They're super punchy. So I like it. It's like the guitar's got a lot of punch, and I've been using it. Really, I have a ton of guitars. I have an endorsed Benedetto as well, and I have a couple beautiful Benedettos that I like to play. But this is kind of my go-to guitar. It's got all my mojo on it. I use D'Addario strings, 13 to 56, round wound, and I use a plain 22G. So that's my setup. You see over here I have, this is a Fender Blues DeVille. I'm not actually using that today. I'm using a Hendrickson that's on the floor down here. But I'm doing a record date, and I can talk about that more later. But I'm doing a record date on Monday at Rudy Van Gelder's, the famous studio in Inglewood Cliffs. And so I pulled that out of my closet, and I'm making sure it's working. It's a nice tube amp, and I like to record with the tube sound. But Hendricksons are great too. But anyway, that was a B-flat blues, and what was I doing on that? So basically, I was trying a lot of different things. I mean, we could do a whole week on the blues, right? But what I was basically doing is I played the melody, Sunny Moon for Two, and I just played it in fourths, and that fourths, of course. What it means is you take your melody note, go down a fourth, which gives you F, so B flat F, go down a fourth, C, G, and D. It's real fat and kind of nasty sounding, and I like it. And up here, it's just parallel, but it works on a blues like that. And then I did different kinds of things. I, of course, started out, just super bluesy, super in the pocket to start my solo. And I try to always stress that. That sound of that minor pentatonic or minor blues sound, the minor pentatonic would be one of the first things we learn, which is... Okay, and the minor blues would be adding a half step between the third and the fourth note. I don't know why, but for some reason it sounds so good on guitar. I think horn players are jealous of guitar players because we can make that simple sound so good on guitar. And we're not even talking about bending strings or doing any of that crazy stuff yet. But, so that's how I like to start my solo, just like I'm building a house. The foundation of the house is the blues. We're playing a blues, so don't start playing some fancy stuff right at the beginning of your solo. That gives you somewhere to build to. Same thing with playing fast. I made sure I played simple, excuse me, played simple at the beginning. And then later in the solo, I started expanding and doing more things. But like I said, it's just start at. So you notice that I like to play with my fingers. Now you could. You can play pick, you can play with your fingers, but I just like this, you know. And I keep my pick right there. Can you see it? Yeah, it's hidden right there. Like, I don't know, I never like practiced it or learned it. I just naturally, it's there, and then I can go to get the pick if I need it. Sleight of hand. Where's the pick? It's right there. So I'm starting out with, you know, my solo like that. And, you know, of course, some people play with the hybrid, which is they hold the pick like that and then use their fingers. This is how I do it. And I think Joe Pass did this a lot too. It's a cool sound. If you think about it, when you play a chord, each note is getting, it's really an arpeggio, even though you're hitting it fast, right? You can't, if you go, each note is getting hit separately. Even though it's fast, it's, right? But if you go like this, it's like a piano. Each note is getting struck at the same time. So I did something simple like that. What I'm doing there is just a B flat 13. That's your basic kind of bluesy chord that you want to learn. This is all in my course, by the way, too. And then E flat 9, B flat 13. You might have heard me doing this passing chord a lot right there, going into the 4 chord, the E flat. I just hit the same chord, E9 to E flat 9, right? And then I went to A flat 13 to B flat 13 again, and then to a G7 augmented. Okay, then the C minor, F7, raise 9, that's just a 2-5-1 to back to the root, and a turnaround. 1, 6, 2, 5, top. Or you could do the tritone sub, which would just be B flat 13, D flat 13, C 13, B 13, B flat 13. Okay? So those are the basic way I started playing the chords. Then I started doing some alternate kind of chords. Thanks to Charlie Parker. So, you know, you might have heard me play something like. And all that is minor sub arpeggios, the same as what I was talking about this week in our lesson on Cantaloupe Island. Okay, so what that involves is if you play we're in the key of B flat, if you play a B flat dominant scale, right? And you start on the 5th degree, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and play the same scale, keep going. Gives you the F Dorian. You might have heard this term before, the minor sub approach. And, you know, I learned it from the records. That's how I learned how to play, from listening to Wes Montgomery, Grant Green, Pat Martino, Lee Morgan, all those Blue Note guys. And that's the sound. So it gets you away from, you know, playing like this. It gets you into the... Just sounds better because it's you're not playing off the root. Okay, and then, so, you know, we talked about... So I just played F minor, E flat, E9, play B minor, A flat 13, E flat minor. Instead of G7, I went to D flat 13 tritone and played A flat minor. Okay, so that's one thing I was doing, you know, I tried to use some of those ideas I talked about this week with the arpeggios. Then I would do, later on I did the Charlie Parker blues, where you would go B flat, E flat. Then Charlie Parker would go 2-5, F minor, B flat, E flat, then to E flat minor, D minor, D flat minor, C minor, F7, and the turnaround, D 3625. And I even did 1 point B flat, confirmation, A minor, A flat minor, G minor, F minor. Then B flat minor, C, D minor. So those are the Charlie Parker, we call them Parker blues changes. So those are some of the different things I was doing, but I was trying to keep the momentum going the whole time. No matter what I was playing, I tried to keep imagine I had a band behind me with bass player walking and a drummer, and try not to lose that, even though I'm just playing solo. So that's kind of what I was doing on that blues to warm up on. I'd like to also do talk about our subject this week, which was Cantaloupe Island, a great tune by Herbie Hancock. That is another tune you can do all kinds of stuff with, and it's funky, and it's it's a good jam session tune. It's a 16 bar tune, and we talked about the bass line first, which goes 4 bars of F minor, then to D flat, same thing in D flat, D minor for 4 measures, and I'm playing that like I call that the Jim Hall voicing. Then back to the bass line. Okay, so that's the bass line. When it goes to the D minor, the bass just goes dun dun bum bum. The Jim Hall voicing I like is it's just a 4th chord like we talked about earlier. Just I'm barring with my first finger all the way across, and then with my second finger I hit the F. Some people call it the so what chord. So you can call it that. I call it the Jim Hall chord because he was the first guy I heard play it, and that was the way he played on the bridge, the record "The Bridge" by Sonny Rollins. If you haven't heard that, go get that one. It's groundbreaking guitar stuff. So anyway, there's the bass line for Cantaloupe Island. Then I showed the chord pattern, which goes like this: 2, 3, 4, 1. Okay, so what's that? F minor, G minor. That's looks like a C minor, but it's just kind of a typical little funky riff. So we got that's G, C, and E flat. Then when it goes to D flat, he goes like this, right? And that's B and A flat, D flat and B flat, and major there, D, E flat and B. And then he puts this F on top, so it's like this. Okay, then the next one is the F minor for 4, and then back to the... Okay, we talked about that one. That was one of the lessons. Then we talked about the melody. It does that again. The funny thing is right there, that's how they played it on the record. Even though it's a D flat 9, they make that a major. I like to just make that a B so that it works with the chord. That's just the way I like it, and that's how I'm going to do it. So there. But I think Freddie Hubbard and everybody, when they play it, they just play it the same both times, up to C. Then it goes. And that's the whole melody. So let's play the tune. I got a looper here, and let's see how it sounds. 1, 2, 3, 4. And once again, you can use your pick if you want. 4 bars. I'll play the melody. Oops. I play the bluesy way. Now, that's a little low, so I'm going to play it in octaves. Like Westwood with his thumb. Okay, so I'm going to start my solo off with the things that I talked about this week. The first one was arpeggios. F minor for the first chord. On D flat 9, A flat minor arpeggio. D minor arpeggio. Back to F minor arpeggio. Then scale stuff. Right up the scale to the 9th. A flat minor for D flat 7. D minor. That's just playing the scales. Now I'm going to just go off a little bit. Blues. I'm going to stay on that F minor pentatonic. So that's kind of minor pentatonic also works well, right? Try to use space, leave space. Now Wes might go even after octaves, he might go into try playing trio version where I'm going to play both. All right, and the crowd goes wild. So there you have it. I played the bass line at first. I showed you that. And then I played the chord version. And then I did the solo ideas and talked about using the minor pentatonic, minor blues ideas. And then I went into different things that we talked about this week on these brief lessons, which were minor arpeggios, using the minor sub when it gets to that second chord, D flat 9. So what I'm doing there, if you just think of this A flat minor triad, don't say it, I know what it sounds like. We're going to go, so we're going third finger, first finger, little finger, third finger on the ninth, back down, and then I'm going to go with the first finger. Even with the triplet, learn it in different positions on the neck. Right? So these are all kind of Wes-inspired ideas that I learned from. Then we talked about lines, you know, playing that scale, just the F minor scale. It's just up and down the scale, but it's, if you play it with conviction and kind of with some rhythmic sauce, it sounds good. Then on the D flat. So these are different things I used, and then I just started improvising using all of those things together. And then a la Wes, I kind of, after I played single notes, I played some octave ideas. And then from the octaves, I kind of played a you know, kind of a chord idea solo, which was, I was basically going F minor 9. So that's like an F minor 9. Right, F minor 9. Take off the, just play the top 3 notes. And then I went to B flat 7. So I went. And there I went to D flat 7. I played the A flat minor to D flat 7. Now you could add the B flat on top there. Something like that I did, you know, where it's like a chord solo. So I built from single notes, the solo's building up to octaves, the solo ends with chords. That's just one way you could do it, but that way you're kind of telling a story and you're, you know, you're building that up. So that's some ideas on Cantaloupe Island. Marcus, is there anybody got any questions out there?
Yeah, thanks, Dave. That was fantastic. Some really great playing there too.
Thank
Awesome
you.
stuff. Yeah, we've got a couple questions come in. Again, anybody, if you have a question, just drop it in the comments and we'll get to them all. We've got some time here. We'd actually been sort of chatting before we jumped in, and we're just talking about like working chord solos into something. And Jim actually just posted a comment here. And just for reference for anyone that's not an ArtistWorks student of Dave's, he's got his full ArtistWorks lesson course, of course, but he also adds a bunch of cool bonus content, including pop-up lessons quite frequently. So Jim Jim's comment is, your course is fantastic. Would you consider adding a pop-up lesson on some foundational concepts for incorporating chord soloing ideas during improvisation?
Hi, Jim. That's a great idea. Let me think about that and get on it. But I do a lot of times. I do that anyway on some of those pop-up lessons. But I think that's a good idea. I could start with even just with the blues, and then maybe like a standard, and put in some chord ideas. For instance, like if we took Satin Doll, I learned it from Joe Pass's record, and he starts his intro like this. All right. So, so what did I do when I learned that? I automatically learned some cool things, like just from this intro. So that's in D minor, right? So the first voicing is this one. So that's just a D minor inversion with a G on top. Then it goes to D minor 9. And I'm just playing the top 4 strings. Then this kind of F major looking F major 9. 4th chord again. Then to D minor. And then Joe goes. Right? Isn't that cool? F major. All right, then he plays the melody. So right there he's in E minor, so he's going to play that same thing he did on the intro on the E minor. Right? That's cool. So I just took from hearing that much of figuring it out from the record of Joe Pass. If I was going to play a chord solo on Satin Doll, for instance, I could use, this whole idea I just showed, this one. I might do something like this. So what did I do? I just used those same chords that I learned, but I put my own melody on top. But that's the same thing as this, right? I just up to E minor. Now the next chord is a D9, So I made it the minor sub, A minor. did a minor sub right there: A minor, A flat minor, A minor 9, A flat minor 9 to C. That's one way of coming up with chord solos. Is just listening to the record and trying to get some ideas from that. Marcus, you got another one out there? Another question?
Yeah, actually, just again, encouraging anybody to chime in here if you've got any questions for Dave. You kicked the show off talking a lot about gear, but we're looking right at a pedal sitting there on top of your amp. And so one of the first questions that came in from Bobby was, what is that pedal you're using? You want to talk about any pedals that you use in your array?
I can't really divulge that kind of information. It's top secret. This is a earthquake device reverb and a little delay. I'm not using it right now, but like I said, this Fender amp, Blues DeVille 410s, as we all know, some of the old amps, you try to turn the reverb on the amp and it starts making funny sounds. Can't have that in the studio. So I pulled that out of my rack, and I use that a lot. It's just a nice warm reverb pedal. Dispatch Master from Earthquake Devices, and it has you can put a touch of delay on there too. The reverb, I'm using a Henriksen amp right now, the Bud 10, and that has a reverb just built in. Yeah, I don't use a lot of pedals, but I do. Like I played at Smalls last night. I just plugged into their Fender Deluxe Reverb, and a lot of people like pedals. Sometimes I do. When I was out with Steely Dan, I actually had 4 or 5 pedals. That was a lot for me, and had to buy a pedal board, just so I could have some cool sounds. But I might use Ottawa. That's another one I like because I'm from the 70s. My funk roots. I got to have that Ottawa in there sometime. Maybe a touch of distortion, like once in a while. I like it especially to let a note ring, like a sax player can hit a note and it just rings. With us, it just dies off. So sometimes I might have a little of that. Anything else? That's basically it. I just if I can get a good reverb and a touch of delay, kind of fattens it up a little bit.
Nice,
and that's
nice.
what yeah.
Yeah. Do you kind of change what pedals and arrays and that sort of thing, just depending on sort of who you're playing with? Like when you're with your trio, it's sort of a different setup. If there's like a B3 in the mix, or
Yeah.
like maybe some horns or something.
Yeah, good question. Yeah, so that's my basic little mini pedal thing that I'll bring with my regular trio. Is it's got that earthquake dispatch, whatever I called it, dispatch master. That for reverb, then I have a distortion pedal, and I have that Ottawa. That's it. That's my go-to. And I use a tuner, just a clip-on right here, for my tuning. Yeah, so it's pretty simple for me.
Cool. Nice. Well, we just got a new question in from Alberto.
If I ever get the gig with Ozzy Osbourne on the reunion tour, man, I might have to kick up my pedals, my pedal stuff a little bit. But for now, this is working for me.
Yeah, maybe crank the distortion a little bit more.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Nice.
I grew up playing that kind of stuff, so I love that music. When I started out in Omaha, it was learning tunes off the radio, the Who and the Beatles, of course. Then I got into like Deep Purple and Grand Funk and all that kind of stuff. We got to burn this tape afterwards, man, because I admitted that. But yeah, look, what do you do when you're 14 or 15 years old, right? You play with you play the cool rock stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just when I was got into high school, when I was a senior in high school, I think I started getting into jazz. We had a band that we got a gig at the top of the Hilton in Omaha where we could play 4 sets a night, 6 nights a week for 6 weeks at a time. And the first 2 sets had to be standards, like Girl from Ipanema, Satin Doll, those kind of tunes that people would dance to, the older folks. the last two sets would be Stevie Wonder, Earth, Wind and Fire, and funk and all that stuff. So you know, I learned a lot on the bandstand, just playing a lot of different gigs, and but having to learn how to play standards kind of got me, you know, the bug of learning how to play jazz. And then I hear in Wes Montgomery and Grant Green, Pat Martino, Jim Hall, Joe Pass, Kenny Burrell, all those guys. I just got hooked, and I haven't stopped. Go ahead, Marcus.
Yeah, awesome. Cool. Yeah, swinging back here. So Alberto asks, how do you approach transcribing a jazz piece?
Good question. When people that study with me, I'm also I teach at 3 universities in the area where I live, which is West Orange, New Jersey. I teach at Rutgers, I teach at Montclair State, and I teach at William Patterson. So transcribing is a big part of the of learning how to play this music. You know, just like when I was learning how to play Beatles songs or Deep Purple songs, that's a little easier to transcribe than Grant Green, but you still had to transcribe it, didn't you? You know, you listened to and took it off the radio, you listened to the bass to see what's happening, and then this is probably the first time that I played Smoke on the Water. You know, so let's also burn the tape because of that, man. We don't want that getting out there. Just kidding. Inagata Vita. Anyway, let's to transcribe. It's the same thing. You just have to listen over and over and over. So say I want to learn a Grant Green solo. One of the first ones I have people do is a solo called Cool Blues. You can look it up on YouTube. Not yet. Wait till this is over. But it's a good one. B flat blues, like I played, and the first thing you do is you want to just listen a lot. So instead of, you know, having your iPhone, like if you're like me, you have 100 billion songs now that are at your disposal. Just pick one thing you want to concentrate on and listen to it over and over, so you can kind of sing it. All right, just got some. So. Just LaCroix, don't worry. So the melody. So that's just a Charlie Parker simple riff blues. So I learned that first because I could sing it. Then I listened to his solo. It starts like this: 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. All right, so I just took that much, and I would stop it and go back and listen to that again. Now that's pretty simple. It's just right up that B flat 7. But by listening to it, I could sing it. Once you can sing it, you can put it on the guitar. So that's the first chorus. And you just basically listening, sing it, and then put it on the guitar. And if you use your ears to do that, you develop your ear, and that's going to help your playing. And if you listen to Grant, where he's putting that note, you hear, wow, man, that's swinging. You know how it lays in there with the ride cymbal. So not only are you learning the notes, you're learning the feel, because you've been listening to this Grant solo over and over and over till it soaks in. And that's really how you can go up to the next rung of the ladder as you're trying to learn how to play. So that's how you do it. Start with something simple. Miles Davis, So What solo, and his solo on Freddie Freeloader. Those are two really good solos that aren't guitar solos, but are very melodic. right? So simple, melodic, but really beautiful. You know, you don't want to start out with John Coltrane, Giant Steps or Countdown or something. Start out with these something simple that you can handle, that you can sing along with. Just keep listening to it, and that's a great way to learn music. Uh,
Great advice. Yeah, there's the question comes up a lot, like across all different sort of disciplines and genres of guitar playing about the importance of listening versus, tablature is so prevalent these days, but like especially like when people are first getting started, knowing like when to get off the sheet and that sort of thing. So yeah, sort of making that ear sort of internalizing connection, I think.
It
Like,
does because, like I said, you you not only get the notes, but you get the feel. Whether it's bluegrass or whether it's whatever kind of music you're into, it's all you have to have the feel. You know, that feel is what people get. That rhythmic quality of music is what gets people. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, very cool. Cool. Well, here's one from John. He goes, Dave, could you comment on your recording The Greeting? On the title track, you and Bruce are both going out when trading fours. Was that spontaneous or planned when you trade the fours?
Hey, John, how you doing? um, that was in the studio with a steeplechase record back in the '90s, I believe, and yeah, that's a great question. When we did those records for Steeplechase back then, they were live to two track, which means there was no overdubbing. We just recorded live, and if something messed up, maybe you do another take, but there was no like, oh, can I go back and punch in my guitar, like with Pro Tools now, where you can fix anything. You had to. So I got very good at recording and getting getting it right on the first take, because in the studio, a lot of times the first take is kind of when the magic happens. You have this kind of it's hard to describe in jazz, but it's a certain magic that can happen when you're communicating with the other musicians and you're reacting for the first time together on a song. So the greeting, I'm pretty sure that I might have in that instance in jazz, a lot of times we can get stuck into like, okay, you play the head, then the sax player takes a solo, then the trumpet player takes a solo, then the guitar, then the piano, then the bass, and then the trade fours, and then you're done. So how can we break that up? That playing things the same way every time, and one way of doing that is to do that what I did on that thing where you trade with another musician instead of trading with the drummer. I think what I probably did is I went up and just looked at Bruce and was like, I played something, and then I looked at him and he picked it up right away because he's Bruce Barth and he's a bad cat. But he played, and so that's it. And then you can build that. I haven't heard it in a long time, but you go back and you're trading ideas, and then it builds up, and maybe you're playing together, and then give it to the drum solo. I think there was a great percussionist, Danny Sedownik, on that record, as well as my great friend who's no longer with us, Tony Reedus. Yeah, so yeah, but you could also plan it out that way. But I'm pretty sure in the studio, like I know on my last record, I just did a record called "Stryker with Strings Goes to the Movies" with a 30-piece orchestra. And I remember there's a couple places at the end of the song where Xavier Davis is playing piano, and I could see him in the booth with eye contact. So at the end, when you're going out on a vamp or something, I would play something, and I would look up at him, and he'd get it. We'd visually do that, and it's a cool way to communicate. To have that conversation. You can come up with some really great ideas. But thanks for listening to that record, and I hope you dig it. I love that tune, McCoy Tyner, "The Greeting."
Absolutely. Very cool. Yeah, it's just amazing how prolific you've been with how many albums you've got out there now. You're a workhorse, constantly creating and putting out more music. What you just did the album you just mentioned.
Yeah,
Which is like,
with the Stryker with Strings Goes to the Movies.
yeah, so cool. Yeah, tell us about that a little bit.
Yeah, well, I was teaching at Indiana University for 11 years. I just retired from there last summer, and with the gentleman who was the arranging instructor at Indiana University, his name is Brent Walrab, and he's fantastic, and also leads the big band. The number one big band there, and so we had done a project out there. West Montgomery turned 100, and they asked. I got a call from PBS in Indiana saying we'd like to do a tribute West at 100 and have Brent arrange it. And would you be willing to, play guitar on it? And I said, oh, you mean you want me to be the guy playing Wes on this? Okay, no problem. That's just no pressure. So Brent arranged some all Wes originals. And as we know, Wes wasn't really didn't read music. He was a natural player and a genius, of course. But so I wasn't going to sit there and have the scores in front of me and be trying to read this stuff. I knew I had to memorize everything, which wasn't that hard because I know a lot of these songs anyway. And it came out great. But just to set up the day comes. We had a rehearsal in the day, and then I arrive at the studio, and there's going to have 150 people there, live studio audience, and talk about no overdubbing. This is going like right on for TV, right? And I look up, and there's like 10 foot by 15 foot posters of Wes all over the studio. So, okay, so now you're going to play Wes's stuff. There's Wes, and oh, by the way, there's Wes's son and his granddaughter, and Oliver Nelson's son. They're right in the front row there. So it was just like, okay. But basically, as you know, there's only one Wes. And so I just had to go ahead and play the way I play. Tribute to Wes. Everything that I probably play has been influenced by Wes. I know Pat Metheny says the same thing. He's a huge Wes fan too, and we learned so much from him. We don't want to sound like him, but I do like to play octaves, things like that, and that's gonna, people are gonna come up and say, wow, that sounds like Wes. But it turned out good, and it's a long way around to answer your question there, Marcus. But anyway, the Brent and I said, man, this was so much fun, and it sounded so great because Brent arranged it for string orchestra and big band. And and I also even had Bobby Floyd, an organ player, in there to do some organ trio in the middle of it. And you can imagine how exciting it is for a guitar player to get to stand in front and play those beautiful Wes melodies and things and the strings come in. It was just like a total bucket list. I said we should do a project. I didn't want to do Wes because I love him too much, and I felt like we'd kind of done that. And so I said, how about let's do movie themes? So that's how that came about. Because he wanted to write for strings, and so it was Brent arranged it. I came up with like the small group arrangements of how we could take the movie themes and make them into vehicles that we could improvise on, and then Brent expanded them into credible thing, and I'm really happy how that record came out. We're going to do another one, I think, in the next year or two. That was called Stryker with Strings Goes to the Movies. The next one's going to be Stryker with Strings Goes to Broadway. So send in those Broadway hits. We're taking requests.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So, that kind of just keys up. Yeah. Do you want to just talk about what you got coming up? Like, where can folks check you out?
You can check my website at davestryker.com. I have my gigs up there. I'm also on social media, Facebook and Instagram. And I usually post where I'm playing on there. My music's available at Bandcamp, a great site for musicians. It's called, you just go to Dave Stryker, Stryker is how you spell my name. davestryker.bandcamp.com. And all my stuff, I started my own label about 12 years ago after recording for many different labels. And so all my stuff is on there, and the money goes to the artist on Bandcamp. If you order it on Amazon, I also get it, but it's a little bit more direct. If you stream, then as everybody knows, the artist does not get paid very fairly. One of my sons said, I was off Spotify for many years, and then he said, Dad, you got to put your stuff on Spotify. That's how people listening. the last several years, everything's on Spotify now, and I understand it's great. But if you want to, like, you can order the CD on Bandcamp or just buy the streaming thing on Bandcamp, and then you could still have Spotify. It's up to you, whatever. It's yeah. So I have I've been around a long time, so it seems like I've been doing about one record a year, and then by doing a record, I use that to try to get gigs and different things, keep my name out there, and it's worked out for me. I mentioned coming up Monday, I'm going into Rudy Van Gelder's, which is like the kind of going to a temple of jazz, of course. All the Blue Note records, all the CTI records, A Love Supreme, all our favorite records were done in this studio. So I'm hoping some of that mojo will come off. I'm just doing an organ trio this time with my working trio with Jared Gold on organ and McClenny Hunter on drums. And I have some new music worked out and a few standards. And yeah, that's it. So yeah, if you want to see where I'm playing, or you also can connect with me at ArtistWorks. I teach these online lessons with the VE technology they have there, where you're able to send in I have about 120 lessons of all the stuff we were talking about today and expanded, and you could send in say Satin Doll or something. You can send in a chord melody, or you could send in solo ideas from my lesson, and then once a week I go in and I send a video back and I post it up, and you can watch me responding to you one-on-one. It's a very cool thing. I've been doing it, I don't know how long, Marcus, maybe 6-7 years now, and it's wonderful. And that's kind of how I'm here today. I hope to see you on ArtistWorks if you can, or at a gig.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, we really just love having you on the roster, and it's just great because like your curriculum that you put together for this, it really starts from the very beginning and sort of progressively steps you through sort of all the different paths you'd want to follow to become confident in improvising and playing this kind of music. It's really great.
Cool.
And, yeah, good stuff. Cool. Well, Dave, it was an absolute treat today to have you. So thank you so much for being here. And thank you for everyone who joined us. We really appreciate you tuning in, and we look forward to seeing you on the future show.
All right. Thanks, Marcus. Thanks, everybody at ArtistWorks, and thank you all for tuning in. And keep playing music. We need some positivity out there in the world.
Absolutely.
All right.
Take care, everyone.